I am directing you over to our South Orange Village Facebook page, facebook.com/South Orange Village. If I could just ask for your help in helping share this live feed so we can get to as many people as possible. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be doing my part as well to make sure that others are tuning in with us on this amazing Wednesday night. Okay. All right, I think I'm all set. Hopefully everyone else is. Good evening, everyone. Village President Sheena Collum here, coming to you live from our second master plan workshop. So the first night, which was last night, January 12th, was absolutely incredible. We had over 100 people on our WebEx, and in the past 24 hours, we have gotten 1,800 views. That's right, not 180. 1,800 views from our first workshop, which is absolutely incredible. Tonight, we want to double that amount. And remember, tomorrow night, we go into quality of life and historic preservation elements. So I can't imagine if you like planning and public policy, this is the Super Bowl. You do not have to wait until February. So just to backtrack a little bit, this master plan has been done very differently. It is the master plan of all master plans, because normally, as our chairman, Harold Colton Max would tell you, as the chairman of our planning board, this is normally a document that sits and rests and is approved by the planning board. And yet we worked with our planning board to say, you know what, we're going to try this differently. We're going to go out to the entire community. We're going to try and hit every aspect, every individual person, every committee, every advisory board, every commission that we have. We're going to break down all of our neighborhoods. We're going to find leads and ambassadors. Overall, we had 170 individuals volunteer to help promote the master plan, gather feedback, and be so instrumental in making sure that this document doesn't just reflect the elected officials or the appointed members of our planning board or the professionals, the amazing professionals that we have on our village planning staff, but it reflects each and every one of you. And that is so significant. So thank you all for the thousands of comments that went into helping shape our shared future, which is our tagline, right? Is that's what we're doing. We're not planning for today in this moment. We are thinking comprehensively about what the next 20 years, 25, 30 years will look like. So last night we did the introduction. We talked about the land use element, the development patterns, why we're seeing more growth, why we're seeing more development, how we are focusing on equity and inclusion, and how we make spaces available for people who otherwise may not be able to move into South Orange by the creation of affordable housing, the way that we look at accessory dwelling units and we allow people to age in place. There were so many things. I'm going to direct you again back to somasterplan.com. The video will be posted shortly, or you can visit our village's Facebook page. Again, facebook.com/South Orange Village for last night's meeting. Like I said, 1,800 viewers. You can be 1,801. So with that said, a big thank you to our planning board. Certainly, Harold, you and your team have been so instrumental. I've got my colleagues on the board of trustees here tonight. They have been absolutely amazing as well. Trustee Karen Hilton, Trustee Donna Collier, Trustee Summer Jones, Trustee Bob Zuckerman, who chairs our Planning and Economic Development Committee, Trustee Walter Clark, who's been instrumental with our Environmental Commission and our sustainability efforts, and Trustee Schnall. Love you guys. You're amazing. And just so you know, and we take full responsibility for this, we started really, really hard about 2 years ago. We had full expectations that in early 2019, that was the adoption period. We were ready to rock and roll. And unfortunately, due to the global pandemic, we reprioritized all of our resources. And unfortunately, this was one of the areas where we just had to put it on pause. So for that, I apologize profusely, but we're here, we're back, we're ready to rock and roll. It's go time. We've got a great team. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be getting your feedback, making sure this village master plan reflects everything that you want, your aspirations, your goals, your vision for this shared future that we have together. And I'm just going to keep repeating, somasterplan.com. You can fill out the survey or you can contact Will directly. Will, wave your hand. right? That's Will right there. He's even got his phone number there. So if you have a direct question, you are going to get Will. His email address is there. And we're going to try and get all the comments in by February 1st, right? Use that deadline. It's the 13th right now. So you have a few weeks. Read the document, 250 pages. You can skip to the areas that you enjoy the most. And we're really, really eager to see what you have to say. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Phil Abramson. Again, from his team, we have Will with us. We have our chairman of our planning board, Harold, who's with us. And then we have a very, very special guest, which is David Lesberg, who's from Arterial, who was instrumental in helping us craft this mobility element of our master plan. And also a shout out, we have members from our Transportation Advisory Committee. People have really helped steer us in the right direction when we think about complete streets and all users of all of our roadways. So for you on the line and on WebEx, thank you for being such an instrumental part in this as well during the initial phases. So Phil, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take us away. And you just need to unmute yourself, Phil.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Stephen, for unmuting me. I heard that the quote of 2020 was, "You're muted." So thank you all for your time this evening. Thank you, Village President, for the introduction. It is great to be here once again, even virtually in South Orange. And you guys just have such a special community, and I think the reason for that is you have beautiful bones. It has beautiful buildings, beautiful streets, but the people are incredible. And this process has been incredible. And all of my time that I spend there, either as a civilian or as a planner, I'm reminded how incredible your town is and the people are. So just a quick anecdote: when you become a planner, at least if you go to the Blaustein School at Rutgers, your first orientation day, everybody gets split sort of into two groups. One people go to one room and they become the land use planners and the designers, urban designers. Then the other people become the transportation planners, and they really never talk again for like 2 years. And I always thought, well, I never needed transportation because I was always dealing with land use and zoning and buildings and architecture and the things that I'm passionate about. And it wasn't until I started really becoming a town planner where you have to look at everything. And that's really why, and this plan was written with that in mind, that this was an integrated team that looked at all the development issues alongside the transportation issues. And I think that we put together an amazing team as part of this. Dave Lesberg and he'll introduce himself, really second to none. He's developed an entire niche around designing great streets for people, which really nobody else is doing. And he's really a forerunner in that. And Sam Schwartz Engineering, which uses technology and all sorts of tools that others, and they're really innovators in that space. So we brought the best to South Orange because after 40 years, you waited long enough. And so here we are, and I'm just going to take our presentation away. So this is kind of going to be split into two parts. Dave is going to do the second, but I just wanted to, for those who weren't here yesterday evening, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what a master plan is, just to familiarize yourself with the process of what we're going to be going through. We have a draft up there, but I just want to emphasize, it is not a final product. It is not final until we hear from all of you and we hear from everybody who wants to be heard. And that we take those, incorporate them. The document will absolutely have changes to it. It'll even look different than what you have today. There's some formatting changes that need to happen, some judging up of the graphics. So we're in the process of doing that now. So we wanted to get out a mock-up document for everybody to see it and to give their comments so you could see it in a readable light. So first thing, as Sheena mentioned a number of times now, somasterplan.com, and also tomorrow night is our sort of our last of Planapalooza, Master Planapalooza. On Thursday night at 7 p.m. we're going to be going over the historic preservation element and the quality of life overview. And then so the earliest possible public hearing, as Sheena mentioned, this is a document of the planning board, sort of by the planning board. and they're responsible under the law for adopting it. The earliest, and that needs to happen through legally mandated public hearings. The earliest date that that would happen is at the regularly scheduled planning board meeting. I have not requested time with the chairman to be on his agenda, so I'm not saying that we're going to be there on that date, but that would be the earliest, just so everybody doesn't feel like they're missing something if they don't hear about something in the month of February. The earliest that this would happen is in very beginning of March. So, and again, I want to reiterate, as I said yesterday, that this is really a public information session only, and because we wanted to get this information out. We know that this is being live streamed in a number of different locations. Some have the ability to give feedback, some of which don't. We thought the best way to do it was to kind of create an even playing field for everybody to go to the website, fill out the questionnaire, and also if you're more comfortable submitting an email or just sort of freestyling your thoughts outside of our questionnaire, feel free to send an email to masterplan@southorange.org. The only things that I ask in there is put your name and address in, and if you don't live in the village, if you just own a business or just a fan of South Orange, feel free, but please let us know who you are and where you're from. And then also, as you have these thoughts, if you could bullet them, if they could be some page reference as something that gave you an idea, or you had some concern with, or anything of that nature, whatever you can do. We're going to be probably sifting through hopefully hundreds or of these comments. So whatever you could do to kind of help us to understand exactly what you're talking about, that would be very much appreciated. But just know that every message will be read, and every message will get its due deference in terms of the document. So yesterday this didn't work, and I fixed something on the computer, and it looks like it's going to work now. So this is the website, and it looks a little weird, but this is it. slmasterplan.com. I'm going to try one thing to see if it can make it better, but and then you have the document down here. So I just wanted to kind of walk everybody through what it is. This is the calendar of events. Here's the master plan, each of the different elements, a reader's guide. What is a master plan? What are the goals? How is it organized? And then some of the next steps. We also have up at the top all the presentations that have been given through this whole time, course of like 2 years. And right here is a link to that feedback questionnaire that Sheena had mentioned, that I've mentioned now a couple times. So if you could fill out the questionnaire, send emails again by February 1st, that'd be great. And you could see even here, it made a sound effect. I don't know if everybody heard that, but the document, and you could even go to different pages. So we have that functionality here on the screen. So that's your primer on how to use the website. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had that. Now, if I could just go to the next slide. Bear with me, I apologize. All right. I apologize for the technical issue here. All right, you know what? I think I might need to. I don't want to hold this up and take minutes trying to figure out what's going on with this. But I think I'm just going to hand it over to Dave, who's going to go through the mobility element. And I could, I could speak to anything that I missed as a result of this technical issue after that. So, Stephen, if you just want to transfer sharing abilities over to Dave, that'd be great.
All right. Can you hear me there, Phil?
We can.
Give me a nod. All right, perfect. All right, can you see my screen? I assume that
Yes.
you can. All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Phil, for the introduction there. And we're happy to jump in. This is an exciting project. We're looking forward to discussing it with everyone. So first, thank you so much to the village president for that rousing introduction and very energetic introduction. Made me excited. And thank you, Phil, for the kind words there. This really has been a collaborative effort. We've worked integrally with Topology, with the village. So a thank you to the Transportation Committee, to the Planning Board, to the police, emergency services, fire, everyone that contributed to this. It really was a team effort here, and it was our pleasure. And of course, thank you to all of you, to the public for attending tonight and for your time. We're really looking forward to hearing your comments and getting some feedback here. So as Phil mentioned, my name is Dave Lustberg. My firm is Arterial. So we specialize in the design of streets and mobility. And with this project, we worked with Sam Schwartz Engineering, and Sam Schwartz is a transportation engineering firm. So they did all of the data collection, all of sort of the real nuts and bolts work on this. So this mobility element presents a modern vision for how people and goods navigate South Orange and the impact that this has on the village's growth, vitality, and quality of life. As Phil mentioned, there's a direct relationship between community form, which was discussed last night, and mobility, because as the village grows and is growing, and as this development comes in, we want to make sure that one, the mobility network, the streets, transportation, public transit, etc., can support the current needs of the village, but also the future needs. So this is a very important element, and I'm going to walk you through it tonight. Obviously, there's a lot of detail, so please, this is really an overview, and I hope that you take the time to go through the document itself and provide us with some great feedback. So when we first jumped into the project, the first thing that we did was really in-depth data collection. And we start that by doing what we call a high-performance streets analysis. So this is when we look at what we consider one of the most important public spaces in the village, right? So streets make up about 30% of the land within the village, and we want to make sure that it's functioning the best that it can. So when we look at streets, we perform a high-performance streets analysis, and when we're doing that, we look at one, functionality and safety. So does the road do what it's supposed to do? Does it move cars? Does it move pedestrians, buses, transportation, etc.? Arts and culture. Is the aesthetic and character of the street representative of the village of South Orange? Health and the environment. Is it sustainable? You know, we've all heard about green streets and things like this. Is the street built to be sustainable? Economic vitality. Are the streets supporting the local businesses that front on these streets? And then finally, design quality. Are the streets built to last? You know, when we talk about design quality, we are not talking about the kind of subjective, do you like how the street looks? We're looking at the quality of the materials. And we believe that streets and infrastructure should be built to last a very, very long time. So that was the very first step, was sort of walking the streets, looking at these things. Next, we did a deep dive into data collection, right? So we looked at things such as street pattern, hierarchy, and design, pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, sidewalks, traffic patterns, crash data, and transit. And, you know, as part of this, we utilized many tools. One of the cutting edge tools that we used that really Sam Schwartz Engineering utilized is a tool called Streetlight. And Streetlight is a tool that essentially tracks vehicular traffic using cell phone signals. So it's anonymous data collection, but it can tell us amount of traffic, where traffic originates and where it's going to. So we call that origin and destination. So we're able to look at all of this information and then come to some initial conclusions. This combined with our outreach, our stakeholder discussions, information that was given to us by the Transportation Committee, the Police Department, etc. And some of the key insights that came from this include, first, that the pedestrian experience is somewhat compromised. There's a lot of vehicular traffic and it moves at very high speeds. The lighting is not great on a lot of the streets. We love the gas lamps, but in some cases, they don't provide sufficient light to make people comfortable when they're walking home in the evening during commute. The crossings and sidewalks in many areas are not in great condition or are not ADA compliant. The village president mentioned aging in place. So this includes how people navigate the community, right? So we want to make sure all the streets are ADA compliant and inclusive. And we really want to create a comfortable walking experience. An unrealized opportunity to promote walkability. So South Orange is the quintessential traditional village, right? It's very walkable. Everything is very compact and easy to get to. But despite this, many residents still drive even to places that are a short distance away. So what can we do to encourage walking? The bicycle facilities. So right now there are no protected bicycle facilities, and it was brought to our attention and our observations that with the amount of heavy vehicular traffic, many cyclists are not comfortable riding on the road with cars. Downtown congestion. During peak hours, we all know that the major corridors get really backed up. So South Orange Avenue, Scotland to Valley, and Irvington Avenue all get congested during those peak hours. And excessive cut-through traffic is sort of tied to that, right? So a lot of that congestion we found, which I'll present to you in a moment, is caused by excessive cut-through traffic. Drivers that are from outside of South Orange, but are using the streets to access other destinations outside of South Orange, be it between highways or getting to and from Newark, etc. The streets and intersections need to be safe and pedestrian friendly. And then finally, the train station area, right? The train station area is such an incredible asset as a multimodal connection, right? This is the true last mile situation where all of these modes of transportation converge on the train station area. And how can we make it as easy as possible for people to transfer between those modes of traffic? Currently, that situation is a little disorganized. So those were some of the initial key insights that came from the data collection that we found. So from that, we developed 3 goals. And I'm going to walk you through those goals one at a time. But just to give you a quick overview of those goals, the first goal, and it really sounds like we're aiming high with this, and we are. But to make walking and biking the preferred method of transportation for South Orange residents, right? So everything's within a mile. How can we make the connectivity so great that you'd rather walk or bike than hop in your car? Goal 2, to calm traffic in the residential areas and discourage this cut-through traffic. So the local streets within South Orange, we'd like to propose some tools that empower residents to help shape their streets and encourage safe driver behavior. And then the final goal, goal 3, is to reorganize the train station area and make it a true state-of-the-art mobility hub, right? So this examines the organization of the train station, and we put together some alternatives that maximize the efficiency, comfort, and economic vitality of the train station area. So first, I'll take you through goal 1. So this is making walking and biking the preferred method of transportation to and from downtown and to other key destinations, right? So first, we want to design streets that will slow traffic or calm traffic along the corridors. We want to create interesting and engaging streetscapes. When a streetscape is exciting and engaging, walks seem much shorter, right? So walking several blocks on a beautiful, comfortable streetscape is much different than walking several blocks on a dark or barren feeling streetscape. And we want these streets to support all modes of transportation. Next, we want to create bicycle and pedestrian facilities that are safe and enjoyable. We want to create cycling facilities that will support users of a wide variety of ranges, not just the experienced rider. And then we want to look at off-road connections. So we know that the Rahway River Greenway has been in discussion for a long time. So this is something that we've looked at, and how we can connect Valley Street better to the downtown using these off-road connections. So a little bit of the understanding the background of this. So like I said, we utilize this streetlight data to understand origin and destination trips for vehicles. And what we found was that 70% of all of the trips that occur in the downtown that enter the downtown and that enter the downtown during peak hours, AM peak and PM peak, 70% of those vehicles are just cutting through the town and going to another destination. So for reference, this is very high. You know, Phil used for point of reference Morristown, where he also works. And so this 70%, this is about double what the cut through traffic is in Morristown. And Morristown obviously is a very busy place. So just as a point of reference, we have that. 15% of the traffic during these peak hours that's causing this congestion is actually coming to South Orange. So just to put that in perspective, 70% is cut through, 15% is destination, right? So that's a very high shift there. So the streets in the village were not created to handle that level of pressure, which is why we get these backups in the morning on Valley and during the peak hours is from this cut through traffic. And as part of this process, you know, sort of what we said was, why should the residents of South Orange bear the brunt or the burden of that cut through traffic that you're receiving no benefit from, right? So the way to shift that burden, we can't necessarily prevent people from cutting through the town, but what we can do is make it easier for you to get where you're going, so you don't have to join in with that congestion, right? So just a look at, and this is not a surprise to any of you, I'm sure, but South Orange is very compact. So you can essentially walk to the downtown within 5 or 10 minutes from almost anywhere in the village. Obviously, there's topographic issues, right? There's some hills in different areas and steeper slopes that make it a little more challenging in some places. But for the most part, this is very compact, very walkable. So we can use that to our advantage to shift that burden and make this very walkable, very bikeable, and make it easy for you to get to your destinations without having to jump in with this congestion. So when we look at bicycle facilities, the first thing that we think of is, what is the level of rider that we're trying to target? And this is a diagram that you may have seen. It's something that's widely circulated in the bicycle planning community. So when we look at cyclists, we put them into various categories, right? So there's the strong and fearless, which represent about 7% of all cyclists. These are the people that will hop right in with the congestion and traffic and sort of go for it. 5% is enthused and confident. So they're comfortable on the street and they'll ride. But then there's 50%, 51% according to this, that's interested but concerned, right? And that, we believe, represents the majority of cyclists, from what we've been told through the Transportation Committee, in South Orange, right? We want a bike, but we're not comfortable enough sort of hopping out on the road. Cars are driving very fast. People are rushing from place to place. So we're not that comfortable hopping right out onto the road. So we want to really look at that 51% and get them on their bikes. So the first thing we did was look at the primary corridors, right? One of the main recommendations here in terms of cycling was that we need to provide protected bicycle facilities. So this means bicycle facilities that are separated from vehicular traffic. So we want to design the major thoroughfares, South Orange Avenue, Valley to Scotland, and Irvington Avenue, in a manner that encourages calm vehicular traffic, slower, right? Not slower below the speed limit. We just want the vehicles to be doing the speed limit. We want to create engaging and attractive streetscapes that make people excited to walk. And we want to support all modes of transportation. So some of the recommendations that are in the plan, and obviously these are not carved in stone. These are examples that the village can build upon. So the first was looking at South Orange Avenue. Now, South Orange Avenue obviously connects many of the great amenities of the village, all the way up to the university, right? So we look at South Orange Avenue, and we thought, what if rather than having parking on one side of the road, we took that space and we dedicated that space to bicycles and pedestrians? What would that look like? And this is a rendering that shows what that might look like. Now, the interesting thing about that, no one ever likes to lose parking, right? But in this particular scenario, on this side of South Orange Avenue, there is ample off-street parking and side street parking all along the corridor, right? So losing this parking would be, it's a trade-off, obviously a trade-off, but the gain would be a protected bicycle facility that even the most beginner rider would feel comfortable on. The other benefit of doing something like this is that this is a county road. So by separating it from the road itself, it's sort of less hoops that we have to jump through with the county, right? So because now this is technically part of the sidewalk. So this is showing an 8-foot two-way cycle track. So bicycles will be moving in both directions. We would also look at amenitizing this space, providing proper seating, bicycle infrastructure, wayfinding, etc. So the result of an infrastructure like this would be a continuous connection from Ridgewood Avenue to Ward Place. Next, we look at Valley and Scotland. Now, Valley is a very challenging one because it already is very narrow, right? So there's a 38-foot curb to curb width. There's not much room to play with here. So, and also on top of that, sidewalks themselves are 6 feet, are only 6 feet wide, which is also very narrow for a sidewalk in an area like this. So we don't have much room to play with here. So the first thing that we're proposing is to really focus on the intersections. Now, what this does is it prioritizes the pedestrian, right? So when pedestrians are walking from the train station back home in the evening, when they get to these intersections, they don't feel like they're taking a risk by stepping out into the street. They really feel like they're given priority at the intersections. So what we're showing here are curb extensions, which you see here. So this would be expanding the sidewalk by about 6 feet and shortening that crossing distance. We could do a textured intersection at the priority intersections as shown here. So that would be a change in material. It could be concrete, it could be another material, it could be paint. This provides ample space for green infrastructure. So when we bump out like this, we can provide green infrastructure. And another feature that we're showing here, which is really a priority intersection feature, is a tabled intersection. So in this scenario, the intersection itself is at the sidewalk elevation. So cars on the approach would come up, like similar to going over a speed bump, but a little more gradual. And then you're up at the same elevation of the sidewalk, you continue through and back down. And that really calms traffic, slows things down, and tells this cut through traffic that, hey, this space is really for our residents, for our pedestrians. Finally, we look at Irvington Avenue. So Irvington Avenue has a little more space. There's a very wide drive lane, 17 feet, where a typical drive lane is more like 10 or 11 feet. So we have some space to work with here. So in this scenario, in the proposed condition, we're showing what we call a buffered bike lane. So this is not physically protected from traffic, but there's an ample buffer, and then bicycle lanes on either side that move with traffic. And finally, just circling back to Valley, you know, the challenge on Valley is, so how do we get this connection down Valley to the train station, right, to get people to that mobility hub? And we love the Greenway, right? But when you're on this side of the railroad tracks, getting across may happen down the road. It may happen, but it's a significant investment to try to get pedestrians that are on Valley across the rail and out to the Greenway. So what the plan contemplates is creating a multi-use path on the Valley Street side of the rail that connects along the back of these properties and up to 3rd, right? And that would bring you right to Sloan Street and then into the train station. We also look at intersections as part of the plan. So this is just an example of one of the intersections. This is the intersection. This is a very complicated intersection and one that was brought to our attention at South Orange Avenue and Seton Drive. But this shows the general types of improvements that the plan contemplates. So it's reducing turning radii at the corners, right? So this tightens up these intersections a little bit and slows the cars down on that turn. Eliminating slip lanes where we can, right? Recapturing that space. These slip lanes allow cars to move very quickly through these areas, and really trying to just tighten this up, slow cars down a little bit, let them know that they should expect pedestrians to be on the road. So next, and is a challenge that we know is South Orange is facing. Also, many other communities are facing the same challenge. And as congestion increases, this challenge becomes more prevalent, and that is cut through traffic, right? So when congestion increases on South Orange Avenue, those cars that are cutting through to try to get to or from work, they try to find the quickest way through, right? So they're going to come off of South Orange and try to work their way through the residential neighborhoods to find those shortcuts. And that's what we want to prevent, right? We want to keep those residential neighborhoods quaint, safe, and you know, sort of the way that they should be. So here's just a look at our understanding. This is after some of the data collection that we did. We looked at sort of where bicycle and pedestrian crashes were occurring most. And an interesting thing to note is that there are, aside from South Orange Avenue, there are only 3 other locations where cars can cross the railroad tracks, right? So what that does is it really limits where cars can go when they're traveling east-west. And this was through discussions with the Transportation Committee as well as the Police Department, and confirmed by the data. When cars are traveling along South Orange Avenue and they come to the congestion or they anticipate that congestion, these gray roads that are off to the side are the roads that they use to cut that area. So down, they get to the congestion, they peel off and they try to find their way through. They either cross at Mead, they cross at 3rd, right, which come through. So a lot of cars come this way and cut through up 3rd, or they cross at Montrose, right? And when they're doing that, they're already frustrated and they're trying to get through here as quickly as possible. And as you can see, this is where a lot of the accidents have occurred, and also anecdotally where people have told us they feel unsafe. They feel like it's dangerous when they're trying to cross the street because cars are rushing through here. So this is the findings. You know, this is exacerbated by what the industry refers to as the Waze effect. We all know when traffic occurs, Waze finds the quickest way around that traffic. So a lot of these people don't know South Orange, and Waze is just cutting them off and taking them through your residential neighborhood. we've put together a whole series of recommendations of how to calm traffic in those residential neighborhoods. So here's just a few of those concepts. First, this is called a pinch point. So a pinch point is when we bump out the curb in certain areas, and this can be done at fire hydrants, et cetera, to limit the amount of parking loss and narrow the roadway. So this is just a calming measure to slow cars down. At some intersections, you can consider mini roundabouts. So these are small roundabouts, again, used to deflect to the traffic and slow it down. This is called a chicane. So a chicane is when we use the road, we use the width of the road to kind of allow the road to meander, to force cars to travel a little slower. And speed humps. I think we're all familiar with these, right? So these are, these are a little softer than your traditional speed bump, but they do work to slow cars down, and hopefully do enough to make the neighborhoods feel a little bit safer, a little bit more pedestrian friendly, and also to deter this traffic from cutting through these areas. And then finally, getting to goal 3, and really one of the more complicated aspects of the plan, and one that requires the most study and consideration, but I think one that would have tremendous benefit in the long term, is looking at the train station area, right? And so this is not just the train station itself, and this is the entire vicinity of that area, and seeing how we can best make that space function as a modern mobility hub, and a place that really that the village can get the most benefit from. So first, provide the proper amenities, right? So modern amenities from modern mobility hub, and I'll get to what that means exactly. We want to reorganize the first and last mile modes of transportation. So that means that those modes of transportation that get you from the train station to your house, or from your house back to the train station, right? Those different modes of transportation, that's what we want to organize. So the jitneys, the car shares, Uber, bicycles, etc. And then we want to see how we can use this pedestrian traffic to our benefit, right? So having all these pedestrians clustered in this one area, that can be a great economic benefit, right? So we want to make sure that we're capitalizing on this and using this energy to help support the downtown. So here's just a look at the train station area for
Dave, I don't want to interrupt you, but I still see goal number 2 up there. I don't want to. Yeah.
Me too. It hasn't advanced from goal number 2.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure why that is. Let's see here. Maybe is there a lag in my video, or?
No, not like that.
Okay. Let's see here. Maybe if I stop sharing, and then I'll reconnect. Let's see here.
It didn't stop sharing. It stopped, I think. So I don't know.
I'll take the ball away and return it in a moment.
Okay.
There you go.
You have the ball back, David.
All righty. Let's see. Hopefully this works. This is giving me the option to share content. I don't know if there's something wrong with, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just, I'm going to stop my video and just keep my voice and see if that helps it. I don't know if the connection is slow. Otherwise, Phil,
Your sharing is coming back.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's coming back.
All right. All right. What do you see now?
It just says starting to share content.
Oh, okay. Sorry about this. Presentation?
Yeah.
We only have it's really just this last goal. Sorry about that. Not sure what the issue is there.
Okay. Stephen, can you give Will the ball, please?
Will has the ball.
All right. Dave, which,
Let's go to goal 3. We could just go to goal 3.
okay.
So close. Just a few slides away.
Okay, there you go.
All right, Dave, I'll take my cues from you.
All right. Well, let me just see. Give me 1 second here, because I don't see your screen right now. All right. Well, I can't see your screen right now, but
So we're on slide 25, Dave. It says 25 at the bottom. So
okay. All right. Let me just use my phone. All right. So goal 3. Thank you guys. Sorry about that, but so goal 3 is about reorganizing the train station, and so as I have the train station area, right? So as I mentioned, amenities, reorganizing the first last mile, and then supporting the local goals. So flip to the next one. Ariel, are you there?
Yep, 26.
Okay, 26. Okay, good. So this just shows out along the top of your screen. Vertically on the left side of the screen there are the rail lines and Sloan Street. And so as we all know, the way that this operates now, we have jitneys that arrive, local jitney, and also out of town jitney. That sort of congregate either on South Orange Avenue or outside of SOPAC. Vehicular traffic utilizes Sloan Street in a sort of ad hoc way, right? People are kind of pulling up, dropping off, Ubers pulling up and dropping off all along Sloan Street, and sort of that gets a little bit congested, cars backing in and out. And then we mix in with that all of the other modes, right? Whether it's Uber, bicycling, etc., right at the train station itself. What I want to look at is how do we take all of them, distribute them. We have a large area here with a fair amount of space. How do we distribute those various modes throughout the area? So first thing that we see, slide there, 27. This is a diagram. Pedestrians in the lower right. We have cars, that includes Uber. We have buses and jitneys, and we have what we're calling Bike Plus, which is bicycles plus, all of these other new things, such as scooters, etc. And these are all of the modes used to get to that train station, which is the regional connection. So these are all that first last mile connect. Okay. Next slide. So
Dave,
some
you
of the,
might
some
want
of
to shut off
the,
your video.
oh, am I really choppy?
Yeah, really choppy. Yeah, it's starting to get there.
Oh man, I don't know why. I really never had a problem. All right, let's see here. Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk slower, and then if if it becomes an issue, you let me know, Phil.
It's better.
Okay. So first we look at what the elements are of the vehicular aspect of the mobility hub, right? So one, looking at car share, looking at electric car charging, having designated drop-off lanes, and utilizing a kiss and ride lane. Maxwell. Next, looking at the pedestrian realm, having ample sidewalks, creating seating and social spaces, using flexible streets. How can we maximize the use of Sloan Street? And introducing a great wayfinding system for pedestrians. Go ahead, Will. How do we handle the Bike Plus aspect of this, right? Providing bike lockers, scooter share, bike and e-bike share, and utilizing some type of structured or covered bike parking, right? So really showing that we're taking bicycling and these, alternative modes seriously. Go ahead, Will. The bus and jitney, thinking about things like raised platforms, providing proper bus shelters, creating bus bays so that buses can pull off and allow people to board, and utilizing off-board payment options for buses. Go ahead, Will. So then we look at all of these amenities and we try to organize them within this space. So the plan contemplates two distinct concepts for how to sort of reorganize this train station area. So the first concept we're referring to as a shared transit street. Now, this graphic that you see here is directly from the NACTO guide, right, which is sort of the preeminent guide for bicycle and pedestrian planning. And this illustrates what a transit street might be. Now, you can imagine that this transit street concept could be applied to Sloan Street, right? So Sloan Street, rather than being angled parking and sort of, somewhat disorganized, we can reorganize that street and locate the various elements of the mobility along the length of the street from South Orange all the way to 3rd, right? So that includes bus stops, jitney stops, car pull-offs, drop-off areas, etc. So it really becomes this linear, multimodal, shared street. So if you flip to the next slide, we'll see what that looks like. So again, for orientation here, this is just a quick diagram. South Orange Avenue along the top of your screen, Sloan running up and down on your screen here, and 3rd Street at the bottom of the page, right? So if we look at this, you can see that we've kind of turned Sloan Street from this sort of, open street into a linear transit street that runs from South Orange Avenue to 3rd Street. So if you look at the letters, right, A indicates that this is a shared street. The B would be where we would locate kiss and ride. So cars would come in off of South Orange Avenue and they could have a clear spot to pull off, pull up, drop off, and then keep going. C is the jitney stop, right? Now that's the jitney stop for residents of South Orange, right? So that area would become amenitized and provide proper amenities for a jitney stop, where in this concept, the out-of-town jitneys, we organize further down Sloan Street where you see the D. So now it's creating these sort of stacked uses along the road, right? So now the out-of-town jitney stop, rather than being out on South Orange Avenue and sort of cluttering up the street and the traffic, it's now internal. And E would be the New Jersey Transit stop. Now, these are all relative to the future development, and I'm sure what was discussed last night in terms of the use of this area. So for these plans, we've just indicated those areas in boxes that say future development. G, if you see the letter G there, that would be about creating a strong pedestrian connection behind the existing buildings that front on South Orange Avenue. Now, this is actually a pedestrian desire line that exists today. So a lot of pedestrians come out of the train station and they walk behind these buildings up through Spiota Park. So turning that connection into an actual formal pedestrian connection. And then using Village Plaza, which is the H, utilizing that street as a real pedestrianized street. So using that as an extension of Spiota Park and creating a really nice sort of gathering space there. So the idea being that this plan tries to capitalize on that pedestrian circulation by really drawing people up from the train station up to Village Plaza and creating nice circulation throughout that area. So this is the concept A, and again, there could be elements of this that we like. This is not sort of one or the other. And then we looked at a second concept. You can flip to the next one. And this one we refer to as the Transit Plaza. So rather than spreading these uses out along from South Orange Avenue to 3rd, we've really focused them between Valley Street and all the way to SOPAC, right? So they're really clustered in that area. So now the Kiss and Ride is located on 1st Street, right? And we're taking Sloane Street and turning that into a pedestrian plaza. So now the forecourt to the train station is a very slow street, really dedicated to pedestrians. And this really supports that future development site, right? Because it creates a nice amenity for that development site. So by doing that, we have to take that Kiss and Ride and move it off of that segment of Sloane Street onto 1st Street. So now the Kiss and Ride, cars would enter 1st, drop people off, and continue out to 3rd. The jitney here, the local jitney for South Orange residents stays where it is at SOPAC. But we take the out-of-town jitney and we move it up to Village Plaza. Right, so that's adjacent to Spiota Park. So it really, now what this does, the goal here is that it starts to spread out that energy, spread out that pedestrian energy, right? So those people now, when they're waiting for the jitney, now rather than being tucked under the overpass on South Orange Avenue or being tucked deep onto Sloane Street, now they're out where they're activating those storefronts. They're seeing those storefronts. And so hopefully this starts to drive some economic vitality in that area and spread that energy out. The New Jersey Transit bus stop stays in the location of the previous concept, down close to 3rd Street. And the pedestrian connection up from the train station to Spiota Park is the same as I had described in the previous concept. So those are the two sort of alternatives that we've worked through to sort of help to reorganize this space. We feel like they're both great options, and there are elements of both that work really well. And at the end of the day, they have to really respond to the needs of the community. So that's where we need some feedback. But they also need to support the future development of this area. So with that, Phil, I'm gonna pass the ball back to you.
Great. And as much as I hate bouncing around, just this one slide that I want to put up, and I'm going to put it up right now, just which has Will's information. It has his has mentioned his phone number, and again, the website is somasterplan.com. So anybody watching either live or on a recording, just wanted to have that up there so nobody feels like they need to write it down immediately. The other thing I'll show is this is sort of just where we are. There's going to be another bit of process still. Please get your comments into us so we can hear everything by the end of the month, and then we'll take the following month to get the document buttoned up. And again, the direction from the village leadership has always been, let's get this thing right. It's taken 40 years to get us to this point. So if we do get a deluge of comments in that require a lot of thoughtful drafting or revisions, we'll take that time, and we'll do what needs to be done to make sure that this does reflect, at the end of the day, the consensus of the community. So, again, I thank everybody for being here. I thank those for watching it who aren't here right now. Please, review the document. It's important. It's your community, and we're here to make a document that reflects your aspirations, your concerns, and your desires. So I'll hand it back to Village President Collum to wrap us up. If you have any parting words.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm unmuted. So thank you so much for that. I'm throwing you back in grid view because, good Lord, it's my face front and center. All right, there's everybody. So we still have a lot of attendees on WebEx. Hopefully it's going viral on social media. You're getting high-level overviews tonight, right? Or else, 250 pages into a master plan. We could be here all night. And quite frankly, I wouldn't mind doing that, right? This is really, really exciting stuff. So you can dive into the full document on somasterplan.com. So it's masterplan.com, where the entire thing is there. One thing that Phil referenced yesterday, but probably didn't mention tonight, there's some formatting stuff that's being worked out, and we're working with a local graphic designer so that once we get all the final feedback from folks, it's going to be beautifully designed. You see some great pictures, some great design work on the organizational structures. What David provided us was great. But one of the consistent things that you're seeing from this master plan, and sometimes there's confusion when you think about the master plan, you ask people what they want. They're like, anthropology in the downtown. No, the master plan isn't going to set a goal of like, we're going to recruit anthropology, but we're going to create high level policy items of things that would recruit or attract retail like anthropology. And those type of things are, again, adding a lot more density or housing or bodies that feel safe walking in front of a retailer rather than investing a lot of money into parking. If you think about it, it's being called the mobility element and not the parking element of the master plan, because what residents said was if you had the choice of, say, 200 parking spaces, right? $25,000 a parking space, $30,000 if you go underground. Are we going to spend as a community and bond for $5 million for parking? Or can we take that same investment? Because by the way, we don't have $5 million. Or do we take that larger investment and invest it into the types of things that David was talking about? Is that when our transportation committee works with him and says, like, we have motivated people who want to walk, who want to use their bicycle or use alternative transportation, but they have to feel safe doing it, that you can't just throw people into the middle of the road. I mean, I haven't ridden a bike since, I don't know, like 15 years ago, but if you made it safe for me, I would try again with a helmet, which is required, by the way. So when we start investing in these type of things from a policy standpoint, then we look at our ordinances, our zoning ordinances, and we look at our capital budget. And these are the things that we start investing in, incrementally, right? In our roads budget, you saw some great ideas. Typically, we put about $1 million or so away every single year into our roads program. And then we submit, applications to the Department of Transportation, or we try and go to other agencies that support complete streets. these are the type of things we can start applying for, that we have supporting information and data that shows us exactly what we need to do to make our community safer. So tonight was mobility, right? Last night we had an introduction, we did some land use. And like I said earlier, tomorrow we are moving on to our historic preservation element. That's when we start talking about our historic buildings, our historic homes, the residential neighborhoods where people feel so strongly about the character that has been established over, hundreds of years, right? So tomorrow we're going to be back here, 7 o'clock. That's right. Put it in your calendar, set alerts on your iPhone, whatever you need to do there. You put on Sharpie, sleep on it. You'll wake up and it'll be like 7 o'clock. You'll know where you're going to be tomorrow night. So we will see you here tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Topology. Thank you so much for being here. Harold, best planning board chairman in the history of Everdom. David, we're very familiar with Arterial's work, some of the really, really progressive and forward-thinking ideas to make New Jersey safer in each one of our communities, where people are very proud of the way that they get from one place to the next, and in the best way that's possible for them. So good night, everyone. Remember to keep sharing this feed. We're going to get this done right. 40 years in the making, and couldn't be more excited if you can't tell, that and Red Bull. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night.